I'm about to give y'all 12 players that I think are better than people believe they are. This isn't about sleepers, so just keep that in mind as we start here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here's your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen, reminding you can find us wherever you get your podcast. All you got to do is check whether you watch or listen. We'll be there giving you everything we give you every single day here on Locked On Jaguars. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to those everydayers. And if you're a first timer, I appreciate it. Thank you for spending your time listening to this podcast. And hopefully we'll see you back again. All right, here's what we're going to do. Segment 3, day 3. Segment 2, day 2. Segment 1, day 1. You know what that means? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about this. Day 3 of the draft. I'm going to give you a couple of guys here at the bottom of my list that I think may slide to day 3. Day 2 and day 3 are going to be combined in segment 2. Day 1 is guys that I know is going in the first round. Matter of fact, 1 or 2 of them might go in the top 10, but still, I believe there's not a consensus, but what there is there's a bunch of people that will think that these guys maybe aren't as good as folks think. So that's where we're going with this. This is not about sleepers. I will do that later. Well, I got some guys, and maybe people don't know, then they have to go. This is about dudes that are actually on the tip of people's tongue, and they're on your consciousness, and you believe that they're going early in the draft, but I'm going to tell you that they're probably a little bit better than a lot of people think. All right. So by that, I mean this is an example. When Pat Surtain was in the draft, there were a lot of people that were split on Pat Surtain. And I think he went somewhere between 9 and 13 or something like that. I wasn't one of them. I thought Patrick Surtain was great and he shouldn't have got out of the top 5. Turns out the kid is the best corner in the National Football League right now. So I'll tell you, a lot of the hang up with him, there were people that thought he was stiff. There were people that were comparing him to a couple of 5-star recruits that had been in Alabama before him, that had gone on to the NFL, that didn't do much. That's what they were doing. And we got to get out of this thinking, well, no, we ain't got to get out of nothing. Y'all keep doing it. There's a lot of people that go, I'm not drafting a guy from that school. Even if the coaches have changed, maybe not the head coach, but the coaches have changed. There are a lot of people that go, I'm never picking a running back from Penn State, and they keep going back to Keyshawn Carter and Curtis Enos. And there ain't no coach on that staff or even near that staff that was coaching those guys back then. It's just the same reasons I'm going to give y'all that people think the Jaguars will never be any good. No matter who the coach is, no matter what, as long as they're wearing teal and black, they'll never be good. A lot of these things go into these scenarios. I'm not going to get on this whole is a guy worth the number 1 pick thing, but I will give you this definition. I was talking to my man Sam on the phone earlier, and I said, Sam, if I give you $1,000 today and say you got to go buy some stuff from the store, and I send you to the same store that I sent you to yesterday and said, I'm going to give you $1,000. I want you to go to the store with $1,000. But yesterday they had a whole bunch of stuff. Today they don't have very much. But I told you have to come home with something. Well, the first thing that you buy, the most expensive thing you buy, you bring it home on both days. The value of what you brought home the first day might be higher to me because you had a pick of a whole bunch of stuff and you chose that. Today, if this store doesn't look the same, but I told you have to spend the money and come home with something, well, the value of something you have today might have been the 3rd or 4th thing you picked yesterday. That's the reason why I don't get caught up on numbers. Number 1 pick. Oh, are all drafts the same? Von Miller wasn't the number 1 pick. He could have been if he came out this year. I don't get it. I don't understand why people don't let that sink into their brain. It's not like every single draft every year is the same. Come on, man. And then y'all giving people credit for picking people number 1 and not giving people credit for somebody else. How come we don't give people a hard time for not taking Chris Jones in the first round? But we give a hard time to people for taking a guy who can really, really play in the first round. And then next year, I mean, comparing it year after year after year, John Elway and Bo Jackson ain't in this draft, man. There are people that saying Cam Ward wouldn't even be a top 10 pick last year. So let's stop with well, he doesn't look like a number one pick. Well, maybe this draft class doesn't look like the other draft class. We got to stop with this foolishness, man. It just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. But I'm going to name a few players right now here on day one, and I ain't going to spend a whole bunch of time on them. That's why I talked about that other stuff first, because they're obvious. Jaylen Walker will be better than most people think. There's some people that believe he's good. Other people, you sit here and have to convince them. Jaylen Walker is like if you take Kelvin Smith and James Harrison and put him in a blender. He's an undersized pass rusher. He's like 6 feet tall, 6'1", well, 6'1 and a half. James Harrison was like 6'1 and a half, 6'2. I know most of y'all saying, well, Harrison was 260. He wasn't 260 when he first started. He was about 250 when he first started. Okay? Kelvin Smith was never supposed to play Mike linebacker in the NFL. He was 215 pounds before the game. He was 192 pounds after the game. I'm exaggerating. But you can't make up for it factor. That's what Jaylen Walker is to me. He's a combination of both of them. He can rush the passer, and it look like he's not supposed to, and he runs sideline to sideline and has the instincts of a guy like Kelvin, and he's that fiery leader. That's why I think he'll be better than most. But I'm going to let y'all go ahead and do what you want to do, and these guys are going to turn out to be a whole bunch better than you think. Luther Burton, dude keeps slipping and falling in the draft. Watch he goes to a good team, and he's going to have some traits and moments that make him look like Antonio Brown, and everybody's going to say, yeah, man, we told him he shouldn't have failed. Luther Burton Jr. is going to be a star in the league. Now, all of these guys at some point going to be stars. They might not be early on because maybe somebody who picks them doesn't know how to use them. Y'all can argue with me until you want to, but I can tell you right now, Saquon Barkley never got a 2,000-yard season when he was in New York. You know why? They're a bad team. That's why. He goes to Philly, he gets it. There's something to be said about that, right? Maybe Emmitt Smith never has 18,000 yards if he doesn't go to a team that believes in him. You want to know why I say that? Because Steve Spurrier, when he took over the Florida job, told Emmitt, man, you might as well go ahead and leave because we're doing something else. And Spurrier did his thing. Great coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Changed the SEC. SEC used to be four clouds of dust before Steve Spurrier, and now they got speed all over the place. Okay? Luther Burton is going to be a star. Trust me. Donovan Easy Ruaku from Boston College, the same person keeps calling me. Boston College is going to be a star in the NFL. Well, Wiggy doesn't really play the run as well as you think, and he doesn't weigh that much. I don't care. He is going to be a star. He's a football player. His get off is tremendous. He glides all over the field. He's going to be better than where he's going to be picked, which is going to be late first, early second. I think he's going to, in 2 years, we're going to be saying, why didn't you take that dude in the top 15? There you go. That's the first segment. That's the easy scouting part of it. We'll get a little bit more in depth. We're going to name some other people that are probably going maybe late first, probably mid to late first for one of them, but probably more likely in the top to the middle of the second round that I'm going to tell you that 3 years from now, y'all going to think they should have gone in the first round. I'll talk to you about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Man, when you are the person that needs tickets to something, there ain't but one place you need to be, and that's over at Game Time. Game Time is the absolute truth, man, because they have a ticket curating process that helps you get tickets to just about any event in the world. When your favorite basketball team is playing in a big tournament, especially around here in these parts of North Florida, people may be scrambling for tickets. There's no need to scramble. Put all of that guesswork into the hands of Game Time. You'll find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything with the Game Time Picks curation process. Make sure you tap in. By doing this, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. It's guaranteed. Seg 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, naming my 12 guys that I think are better than most people think they are. The first round guys are easy scouting. Jaylen Walker's probably going in the top 10. Luther Burton may go in the first round. Donovan Easy Ruaku may go in the first round. I know number 4 on my list, Kelvin Banks, is going in the first round. But here's the thing. I think Kelvin Banks needs a little more love. When I look at Kelvin Banks, I see Jason Peters. Not like Kelvin Banks ain't going to be day one what Jason Peters was in his prime. That's not what I'm saying. But what I do say, I see a 6'4", 330-pound dude, man, that can move his feet. If the right coach gets his hands on him, I think Kelvin Banks has a chance to be the best offensive lineman in this draft. But I think he'll probably go somewhere between 14 and 22. And we're going to look back and say he was way better than people thought. And I'm going to keep this podcast, I'm going to keep this one warmed up, and I'm going to fire this joker off every time one of these dudes makes a Pro Bowl, and I'm going to say, I told you so. And there's going to be a lot of people that say this whole dude's stick is telling people what he told us. And I'm going to say, you damn right that's what my whole stick is, because I spend all my time every day defending what I say. I'm putting this one right here in ink that won't erase, so you all will see it. And y'all can beat my head up about it if it doesn't work out, but I'm confident that it will. And that's why I do this show. Next person that I think is going to be better than a lot of people think. As a matter of fact, the next two, they go to the same school. They went to the same school. One of them is Tali Williams, the defensive tackle, the nose tackle from Ohio State. I think he's going to be a great player, outstanding player. I think he's going to be one of those guys you look up and people like, maybe I ain't saying he's going to be Vita Vea, but what I'm telling you is this. He's going to be, barring injury, he's going to be a 10-year starter in the NFL for a team that wins a whole lot of games. I think he has a little bit of, like I say, not Vita Vea. He's not quite maybe Dexter Lawrence, but I think he's one of those types. And I also think he's going to be a 3-down player. I don't think they're going to pull him out on passing downs. I think dudes like this end up with Baltimore and everybody ends up saying how the hell did he get there. All right, the next player that I'm going to, and I'm kind of going at a nice pace with the guys because these are the easy scouting guys that everyone knows. Donovan Jackson, the guard / tackle from Ohio State, who is projected to really play guard in the NFL. Donovan Jackson is a ball player, man. There's a reason why Ohio State. Matter of fact, I got another Ohio State player on this list. Donovan Jackson is a ball player. Sometimes I look at tape and I look at film, and I usually allot myself a certain amount of time, and I get like probably 20, 30%. I say, I ain't got to look nowhere. I ain't got to look no more. That's it. That's it. When I saw Donovan Jackson, I said, that's it. I ain't got to look no more. That's it. He can play. Now, all these guys won't end up in Jacksonville, obviously, unless they trade down and end up with a bunch of picks between 6 and 50, and that's not going to happen. But I'm just naming people, and I'm not throwing crap against the wall. I'm choosing 12 guys out of like 300. I'll do a sleeper show later of dudes that are late-round picks that might end up being superstars, but that's not what I'm doing today. So I'm halfway through the list, and I haven't named a player right now that most people don't expect to be gone by the end of the second round. That's why I'm telling you it's not about sleepers. It's just about me looking at dudes like this and wondering how they're not higher on a lot of people's top 50 and how they're not higher on a lot of people's wish list. I mean, when I look at the Jaguars, when I look at everything that everybody's telling me about the Jaguars, all of the people that cover the Jags, all I keep hearing about, I just keep hearing the same names over and over and over again. I keep hearing Mason Graham. I keep hearing Ashton Genty or Ted McMillan. Let me name a couple of more of them that I keep hearing a lot about. Of course, Trav and Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter and lately Jaylen Walker. But I'm just saying, man, there are way more players in this draft than people think. Now, when you're not picking high, it's more fulfilling when you get it right. So I'm gonna tell y'all why I'm saying that. Anybody who listened to this podcast at this point last year heard me raving about both Brian Thomas Jr. and Quinyon Mitchell. If you don't believe me, ask my man Toriano. Toriano, I'm mentioning your name on here just so you can quote tweet this. Those were two people that I went back and forth over and over, just telling people they're going to be good. And there were a lot of folks that were like, I don't know, man. And Mitchell lasted until the 20s, and so did Brian Thomas Jr. I bet if teams could pick right now, both of them would be gone by pick number 7. That's the reason that I'm doing this, so you guys can have it on record of guys that I'm mentioning. And I'm doing 12 because whoever was 13 or 14 on my list, they ain't getting mentioned, but I'm only doing 12 just to pinpoint this thing so folks can't say I'm just throwing darts with my eyes closed. That's not what I'm doing here. We're going to go now to dudes that are really late day 2, probably day 3, maybe 1 or 2 of them in day 4. Here we go. Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. There's a whole bunch of running backs in this draft. There are a whole bunch of running backs, a whole bunch keep mentioning. There's one running back in this draft that when I look at him, he reminds me of Bucky Irvin that plays for Tampa. And that's Dylan Sampson. You want to talk about putting them up and putting them down? You want to talk about explosiveness and vision through a hole? Dylan Sampson to me is the dude that people aren't mentioning enough as an explosive complementary running back in a 2 tailback system. If you already have a power running back and you ain't gonna get Alvin Kamara and you ain't gonna get Jahmyr Gibbs if you don't pick in the first round, even though one of them guys lasted until day 2. The thing that I'm trying to tell y'all is this: Dylan Sampson can play. Dylan Sampson can flat out play. And he's going to Devin A-chain somebody's team if he gets the right opportunity. I'm telling you. Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU. I'm going to tell you right now, if Savion Williams becomes a Jacksonville Jaguar, here's something you're going to hear. Oh, my God, Laviska Shenault Part 2. Savion Williams ain't nothing like Laviska Shenault. One, he's faster. 2, he's 6'5", and he's about 225 pounds. The only thing that's similar to Laviska Shenault is the fact that he got dreadlocks and they used him at quarterback, running back, wide receiver. They put him all over the place. Savion Williams he's Mike Williams size or bigger, but he's got speed. Savion Williams from TCU is going to be a very, very good NFL player. If you are a Ted McMillan fan and your team doesn't get him, I'd hope like hell they take Savion Williams or Jaden Hickens, who I did not mention here. That's how good I think Savion Williams is eventually going to be in the National Football League. He's big. He's about the same size as DK Metcalf. Maybe even a little bit bigger, at least taller. All right, let's move on. I'll give you one more before we head to the break. And that is Will Howard, the quarterback from Ohio State. Now, I know people are like, oh, come on, wait, that dude ain't that good. He won a championship. He's all right. Ohio State was struggling. He had all of that talent around him at Ohio State. Yeah, I love that excuse because you know what? Guess who else had a whole bunch of talent around him? Joe Burrow. Didn't mean he wasn't good. I hate when people do that. They go, oh, man, he was just good because he had all those people around him. I'm always one that believes if you have a whole bunch of talent around you and you look bad, if you're not good, you're going to look bad more than anything because it'll be very, very clear that everyone around you is really, really good and you're kind of holding them back. I think Will Howard is going to be a very, very nice player and would not be surprised if late in the second round, Oakland moves up and takes him because Chip Kelly coached him in college and he could be the developmental quarterback for not Oakland, the Raiders in Las Vegas. And he could be their developmental guy behind Geno Smith. I think Will Howard has some intangibles. I think he's big, he's strong. I heard his pro day went really, really well at Ohio State. I think he's a leader. I think he's tough. There'll be some people call him a diet version of Josh Allen. I just call him a real good version of Will Howard, and I think Will Howard's going to be a really, really good player, a nice developmental piece that you hope to not see before year 3. But when you do have a chance to see him, if your quarterback is getting old, getting up there in age, I think this is the dude that you bring into your system as a developmental quarterback, and eventually he takes over the reins and he's somebody's quarterback for a decade. All right, we're going to get to some players here that are most likely day 3 picks. I got 3 more left on this list, and then I'll send this thing out and let y'all have at it. Tony Wig is here with Locked On Jaguars. Hang tight. All right, we're going to the trenches. This is for the folks, especially here in Jaguar land, that say Mason Graham or nothing at all. If they don't get Mason Graham and then all of the other guys kind of fly off the board and they're stuck there in round number 3, or the people that don't want Mason Graham, if the Jaguars do pick Mason Graham and then they say, but they still need a nose guard because this is going to force them to adjust people and move people around, I got the guy for you. That is Jamari Caldwell from Oregon. Go watch the tape. That's all I'm telling you. Jamari Caldwell is like 6'2", about 335 pounds. Goes sideways to side, goes sideways, sideline to sideline, takes on blocks, does the dirty work, keeps linebackers clean, and allows them to do their job. He is a good football player. I think he's going to be a really, really good stout pro for a decade, as long as he doesn't balloon up and keep his weight. He can keep his weight down. He's going to be a very, very good player. And if you're a team that is deficient at stopping the run, Jamari Caldwell will be the type of dude that you need to invest a draft pick in the 3rd or at the very latest at the top of the 4th round. I don't think he lasts any longer than that. I'm a big, big Jamari Caldwell fan. Played at Oregon 1 year. Before that, he was at Texas Tech. I remember he went in the portal. I was hoping Florida State got him, but they never got involved with it. He is a good player. One of the things about him, though, he was listed at 6'1" for a long time, and then he measures out, and he's between 6'2" and 6'3". He's a little bit under 6'3", so that helped him out a little bit. But playing in big-time football, he showed up and showed out and actually helped Oregon have a really, really good season last year. So I'm going to go with Jamari Caldwell as another one of my guys. I'm staying in the trenches, or at least on the defensive line, because I think whoever gets Ashton Galate out of Louisville is going to get a really, really good football player that is extremely active. He can play both sides of the defensive line, of the defensive end position. I think he's an edge setter, but he also has some pass rush to him, and he's really, really, really active. One of those dudes, man, that would be like an unsung hero on the team. It's like, damn, that's a nice little player. Different position than the guy I'm going to mention, but a dude like Kyle Van Noy, it seems like he's been playing for 14 years, and you just look at him and say, that's a pro's pro. Different position, different kind of player. Galate's like 6'4", 260, but he's like 6'3", 260, but I think he's another one of those dudes, man, that one of these really, really good teams is going to get their hands on him, and he's going to be a thorn in everybody's side for a very, very long time. My last player on this list, you got to love the defensive linemen that they line up at running back sometimes. When teams do that kind of stuff, that just kind of tells you what the overall thought and feeling is about a player. But he's been overlooked a lot, and that's J.J. Pegues from Ole Miss. Love me some Pegues. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody said, give him to me in the round 2. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody like Pittsburgh says, nope, we're taking him right here in the round 2. I wouldn't be mad if somebody did that. I wouldn't be mad if Buffalo goes, nah, we need to get him off the board right there at the end of the 2nd round. And then everybody goes, what are they taking him for? I'll tell you why, because he can play. He does his job on that defense. He stood right there next to Walter Nolan, not as explosive as Nolan, but a real, real good player. You didn't see them putting Walter Nolan at running back, did you? Nah. J.J. Pegues can get it. He can absolutely go. Some of these dudes are going to have to be put in a little bit of a rotation, but everybody I mentioned has high octane ability. They have a whole lot of get out and go get it. And most of them, from what you understand, if you really look into it, they have these intangibles that you really, really like. And people I trust actually have really, really good grades on them. Would not be surprised if J.J. Pegues ends up in the Pro Bowl 2, 3, 4 times in his career. There you go. Dudes that I am just, if I was a GM, if I was in somebody's draft room and the position, the draft position where somebody thinks that, okay, this is about the time you need to start looking around, and they go, all right, area scout Wig, what you got? These are the dudes I'm standing on the table for at those respective tiers. These are the guys. And if they say, okay, explain why, I'll tell them exactly why. I'll tell them all of those things that I just said. I'll say this, though, with a lot of draft talk. This is like my favorite time of the year. It used to be before social media. Because what I think happens in social media, you get people that's going, man, the draft is just a crapshoot. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's not true. There are teams that do know what they're doing. There are good teams that miss on players. During that 20-year run where the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls, they missed on a whole bunch of players. But the thing is, they hit on a whole bunch, and they hit on a whole bunch of them that they're putting those red jackets on, and they're putting them up in the rafters. They hit on one or two of them that are amongst the best who have ever played at their respective positions. And that's the balance that you get. You're not going to hit on them all. But if you do hit some, you want more than doubles. What helps you with those strikeouts is the fact that every now and then you hit a home run, a consistent home run, or a grand slam. Everybody's not going to be Ichiro. Everybody can't be Barry Bonds. But you can get that really, really, really good player that bats like 292 every single year. Gives you 28 home runs, 92 RBI, and he plays really good defense, and you put him in that 6 hole in baseball. Sometimes that's what football is. In basketball, you usually got to find somebody. If you don't already have a great player, every team in the league is on a quest to find that great player, because one player can totally change your franchise. Then if you do get a great player, you try to find complementary players, or players that understand what it is, but that can come in and have their greatness in moments and be a running dog for that lead dog. But then you have to have glue guys. But that's only a roster that's 15 people in basketball. In football, it's 53 guys. Some guys are playing now. Some guys are developmental players. Some guys are going to help you when you get to the point where you're good enough that you can't keep everybody, but you got to have a dude behind them that can play well and that can help you and get you from one point to the other. The thing about the draft is it is an inexact science. But there's a reason why, and not just with the quarterbacks, that's the main part of it, but there's a reason why a lot of teams never have the opportunity to pick very high. It's because they're consistently good year after year after year. When's the last time the Minnesota Vikings picked in the top 5? It might be a few years ago, but I just don't remember them picking that high, right? There are just some teams that you just can't, unless they trade it up, you don't ever remember them being terrible enough to be in the top 5. But ironically, the team that I'm saying that, the team that you cover in Jacksonville, they probably picked in the top 5 more than anybody over the last 20 years, and they haven't gotten it right. And this is where the easy scouting is supposed to happen. You got to hit on those day 3 choices, man, and you got to be convicted about it. You got to stop using terms like first round or first player taking production and all of this crap. Get guys that can play. Ain't nobody going to care where you picked them. They're going to care about what they do on the field each and every day. Each and every day, I'm glad I mentioned that, because I'm here on Locked On Jaguars, and y'all can be here with me too. Make sure you tap in each and every day here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. Also, to learn more about any of these players, make sure you go to Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. They break it down like you can't get it broken down anywhere else except here on Locked On Jaguars. But check my brothers out wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Appreciate it. Take care.